Hi, Anja.
Hello, Tansy. How are you? You have a
I'm
lovely
good.
smile on your face this morning, or I don't know what time it is.
Yeah, it's lovely I'm still in the mountains, so it's lovely to be here. Um, and it's been sunny, so yeah, big smiles.
Mm,
And you're in a
mm.
new location. It's very swishy.
Yes. It's more of a contemporary look. It's not my place. I'm here just for a visit. But it's nice and clean. I appreciate that.
It looks very nice. So I think should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
So I'm Tansy Baigent, and I am a Bitcoin and crypto coach and the founder of the Crypto Ethic, which is an organization for teaching about Bitcoin and crypto, and also a community and just helping guide people into the Bitcoin and crypto space in a safe and held way.
Hi, and I'm Anja, and I'm a Bitcoin enthusiast, have been since 2019. And I love to hang out with Tansy and chat. And I'm also the editor of the Crypto Ethic. Yeah, let's dive in.
Perfect.
That's it about myself.
And so what we wanted to talk about today is we often talk about the importance of Bitcoin and the positivity of diversifying your portfolio to include Bitcoin. Obviously, no financial advice, but it's something that maybe personally we might be doing. But we wanted to speak to some of the barriers to entry for Bitcoin. Because as much as we love Bitcoin and as much as we can talk about it, we recognize that there are difficulties with accessing Bitcoin. And so Anya and I wanted to talk about that today, and starting with the technical barriers, or the technological ones. So, Anya, what would you say is your or was your biggest fear in terms of the technological aspect of getting into the space, or what have you found most difficult technologically?
Yeah, you know, I was really excited when I learned more and more about Bitcoin. So I don't know if there was necessarily a fear, I guess maybe deep down, but it was more of like, how do I get in? How do I get in? I'm so confused. So, I mean, it's hard to like, how do you get your fiat money and turn it into Bitcoin? What does that road look like? And I had no idea at the beginning. And so I started a very basic way, very beginner newbie way. And this was in 2019. I hopped on to PayPal because PayPal at that time offered Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. And to be honest, I don't even know if they still offer you access to it or not. And so at that point, it hadn't entered my mind about keys. In my mind, that was my Bitcoin. I owned that Bitcoin, but really it was PayPal's keys, and they sort of represented me in purchasing it, but it wasn't actually my coin, which I didn't understand at the beginning. That was hard to wrap your head around, or my head around. And then, I just started listening more and more and joining communities who were talking about Bitcoin. And from them, I learned, okay, there's this thing called Coinbase, a crypto exchange, and it's a very easy access. So again, not knowing next steps with it, I'm like all Googling about Coinbase. And again, the idea was it was easier with PayPal because at that time I had a PayPal account. So it was an easy transition. Just the money I had on PayPal goes to PayPal, and I've bought a Bitcoin or, a fraction. How about you, Tansy?
Well, I think when I first wanted to buy Bitcoin, it was a huge minefield to think about how to, like the same thing, how do I move pounds into a space, or how do I buy Bitcoin with pounds? And my partner at the time, he sort of introduced me to some wallets, and he was like, these digital wallets are what you need, and that's how you can convert your pounds into Bitcoin. Um, but at first, I found just downloading these wallets. Did I choose the right wallet? And then I also started with Coinbase. And then you have to kind of give your passport details. And I think just in terms of how much I had to give was actually quite intimidating, because even then, once I'd given my details, to actually put pounds into the wallet, I had to bank transfer it to this address, and it was in Estonia. And I was like, oh my God, is it just going to kind of disappear into the ether? And so there was definitely a lot of uncertainty about that whole process. And you kind of feel like, how much risk am I taking? How much am I giving without kind of getting much back? But I just do things like in small pieces. So I sort of checked out Coinbase, and then I only sent, I think it was like 50 quid. And I was like, if it doesn't arrive, that's okay. And then when I saw it in there, that was the moment where I felt really kind of confirmed that this was working. And then when I bought my first Bitcoin, it was just, or amount of Bitcoin or Satoshis, I just found like so much joy in just being able to convert the pounds into Bitcoin. I had no idea almost how easy that would be. I thought the process would be much more complicated. And suddenly I had Bitcoin. But I do understand that initial process of like getting into the space and like knowing how to buy the Bitcoin and like where to hold it. But then once you're in, there are a lot of more technological challenges which you're confronted with, which one is if you want to send that Bitcoin across the space, and you have all of these long numeric codes and this sort of worry that you're going to get it wrong. And I think that's the piece. I think so many people are challenged by that. What if I'm getting this wrong? And I think that's where I really want to land with technology, is that we have this amazing tool that is technology, but there is this you're kind of taking your power back with Bitcoin and with this space. And so when you're sending money, it's like, it's up to you to kind of get it right. And when you're holding it in a wallet, so in Coinbase, they hold your keys. So what that means, and what Anja was speaking to, is that when you hold the keys to your coins, that means that you solely have access to those coins. If an organization holds the keys to your coins, you can access them, but you don't own them. So whoever holds the keys to Bitcoin, to your Bitcoin, owns them. And so it's a kind of complicated piece. So when you hold your Bitcoin in Coinbase, they hold the keys, but you can access that Bitcoin and you can send it around the space, and you can move it into a wallet where you hold the keys. But for as long as the Bitcoin is in Coinbase or is in a wallet that is hosted, like PayPal, they hold the keys. And it's really confusing to think about that in a way of like what that means. And then when you actually do move it into a wallet where you hold the keys, what that means is that only like you are fully responsible for that Bitcoin. So if you lose the keys or you lose access to that wallet, no one can save you. Like no one can get your Bitcoin for you. And I think that's one of the biggest things about Bitcoin and learning that brings back empowerment, is this: you're given responsibility, and it's amazing how everybody just wants someone to take it from them. No, 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 no. I can't trust myself. I can't trust myself with the technology. I can't trust myself with sending. I can't trust myself with holding the keys to my money. And it's such an interesting process. And I would say that that is probably the biggest barrier, is that technological barrier of the responsibility part of the technology, is there's no one kind of to save you at some points. And confronting that within yourself is a really interesting process, but it really does lead to an amazing sense of empowerment when you claim it and when you know you
Yeah,
can do it.
it's responsibility. It's like we're trained, whether it's through schools or just learning, from friends and family, that in terms of money, that you trust the bank, you're giving it to the bank, you're giving it away so that you don't have to worry about it. And that's sort of the norm. It's what we're just has ingrained in us. So this sort of flipping to really taking that responsibility and that ownership and that power is really unnerving, because it's just we haven't been trained to. Yeah, so that sense of responsibility is like such a huge thing, because not only are we not used to it, but it's almost like taken away from us, especially women, in terms of you don't know how to count, you don't know how to balance this, you don't, you're not equipped to have that kind of power. So we're going to just take that responsibility away from you. And you're kind of trained into thinking, oh, thank you. I am so grateful that you're taking this responsibility away from me. So it's so hard to wrap your head around this new way of understanding yourself and your relationship to money, to finance, and your relationship to your empowerment, your autonomy. So I think that's sort of the underlying thing. And then technology then makes it even harder, because it's another thing you haven't been trained to do. And another thing they're saying, oh, you don't have the skill set to figure that out. Let the technology people, the mathematicians, figure that out. So there's no role or space for you here. Don't worry about it. And so it's sort of, you're being tricked, you're being lulled into just saying, okay, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the skill. Well, you do. You just have to break out of that mentality. And of course, it's easier said than done, but it's so possible and so empowering. Yeah.
I love all that you spoke to. It's so important. And I think it's a case just like anything else of learning. Like we don't know how to drive a car. When you first come to it, you don't know how to use a computer when you first come to it, and you go through a learning process. And if someone said to you, oh no, you can't, you're not going to be able to learn how to drive a car, like that's not, you're not going to be clever enough to do that.
And that's what
And
they used to say to women.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see it in so many people coming to this space or who are not in this space and who say, oh, I'm not good with money, or I'm not good with technology, or I wouldn't know how to do it. Oh no, it's over my head. And it's a preemption of just like of letting go of responsibility. And with anything else, it's just the same. It's you just have to learn. There is a learning curve, but the benefit that you get is so powerful. And like when someone else is, for example, your money is one of the most important things that you're ever going to kind of confront in this lifetime in some ways. Like obviously there's very many important things, but what I mean in terms of a societal piece is that money really kind of forms so much of our society and our interactions with others and the way that we work and all of these things and our sense of security. And so to have one of our most important assets in a way be controlled by someone else, for us to want to give it away to someone else because we're not willing or feel able or feel told that we can't be able to learn the technique and tools to take power over our money. And it's the same with technology and Zoom. It's like you could say, oh, no, I can't do Zoom. No, I can't do computers. And it's like, but then you're shutting yourself out of communication with the world, with all of that information that you could access. And so it's a similar thing. It's like you learn so that you can get this incredible benefit. And I think it's a little bit, it's a dual thing of being told that one is not good enough and that you don't want to take responsibility, and that is a huge pressure. But there is also a personal responsibility as well of like, to learn. And that takes effort, but when it's something as important as empowerment over money, I think that it's something to reach for, to aspire to do. And we all have to go through that learning curve, just like driving a car. No one can do it automatically. Everyone has to go through the curve.
Yeah, there's that frustration, and then you're like, oh, I can't do it, but I really want to have the power to drive. So you keep doing it and you keep doing it till you get it. And then with time, you get even better and better and better, and you start driving further away. You start taking the expressway. All these ways open up for you. And it's so the same in crypto. You just start by moving $10. So you lose $10 if you make a mistake, or $5, whatever, a small amount. And you start with that. And then you go for the next bigger step and the next bigger step. And then you learn, if you want, how to trade, or you learn how to buy other kinds of coins, and you start sending it to your friends, and offering them with payment. And then you start teaching your friends, and it's just like this big world opens up to you by making like these small steps, like sitting behind the steering wheel and just holding the steering wheel without the gas, and just getting the sense of the space. And I can, okay. And then you drive with your friend, and you start just pushing further and further. Yeah. So keep pushing, because this
Yeah.
is important stuff. And it's exciting. And you just start feeling so powerful and so smart and clever, and like, this is so doable. And then you start also ignoring sort of the negative news that comes your way, whether it's just rumors or it's just somebody reflecting on something that may or may not happen, and you become so self-empowered and sure of yourself as you're navigating this new path. You start not falling into the traps that are out there about the fear, and this is a scary place, and this is a naughty place, or this is toxic place. You don't really see that, and you realize that's not the truth. So empowering yourself in the space that also empowers you to sort of drop all the noise that's around you.
Yeah. I think that learning about Bitcoin really is that path to empowerment. And it's not just the Bitcoin itself, but it is the process of confronting those fears, particularly around technology, particularly around responsibility. And when you actually claim that power back, suddenly you have power with all things to, when you see the news, to decide for yourself. You've seen the inside and you can see what people are talking about, and you can make the decision. Do I stand beside that, or do I stand against that, or do I not know? Like, you have this realization that you get to decide. And I think that's one of the most powerful things actually about Bitcoin is, aside from the money piece, it's actually in learning about Bitcoin and taking yourself through that process that you open up that piece of power within you, and that you'll still be confronted with things, and things will still kind of shake you at times, but it's a constant reminder, especially like being in this space and doing these things, of like why you're doing it, and it's just a reconfirmation of your power. And even when you make a mistake, or even when you do something, you send something somewhere, it's like, I'm learning, that's fine. And in a way, money, like we say, it's just energy. Like, money is just money. And so it's like, it's moving, and sometimes, yes, you lose it, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of confronted with that. And then it's less about what happens and more about how you respond to it. And I think that's the same with the technology. It's less about like the technology, it's how you respond to that technology, how you respond to the challenge. It's not about the challenge necessarily itself. Although obviously we would say, go for Bitcoin, but we learn through life, through challenges and through confronting those challenges and through building up our experiences and our knowledge and how we keep going, even when we feel nervous or when we feel like we're taking risks or when even sometimes those risks don't pay off. It's like, okay, it's all growth. And that's all empowering when we see it that way, because it's empowering us to keep choosing for ourselves, no matter the kind of consequences in some way. It's just, there's a lot of pieces to it.
Yeah, and it's funny how also as you get into the space and learn more about Bitcoin and become more confident, and you're also, it's almost inevitable you go down the path of understanding the issues with the current financial system, you know, and the banking structure and inflation and fiat money. And it, you know, it was something that never interested me previously. And now I just can't help but absorb all this information and, you know, get kind of angry or hugely disappointed in the current system and the stories that they tell us. So it's interesting that sort of goes along with this ride, is becoming more, having a keener eye or becoming more critical of the existing system and what's going on. So I've learned so much about that world as well,
Yeah.
about myself, but then also sort of the system that I live within.
Yeah, it's so
So much
true.
to learn.
Yeah, so much to learn. And yeah, it's a really important message as well, is that is to actually learn about our financial system and like understanding about money, understanding about who actually kind of owns your money, like how safe is it, and also what is money. We just go through life thinking this is a really important thing, and yet we have no idea what it is. We really don't understand what fiat money is, how it is created, and why we go through these boom and bust cycles, like the economic theory behind the whole, our whole economic policy of the country. And it's like, if you don't understand how the money system works, then you're constantly left out of the like any place of empowerment around your own money. And just feeling like everyone else understands something above you, you kind of feel like you don't really get to have a say. You're like, oh, I'm just given a $50 note, and this is a $50 note, and I just spend that $50 note. When you recognize that the only reason that note is worth $50 is because government tells you that it is. But if the government keeps printing, that $50 note no longer is worth $50, like due to inflation, that over time that $50 will be worth $30, will be worth $20, will be worth $10. So over time, your money is losing value. Every year, your money is losing value. So if you put, $50,000 in a bank account over 10 years, that will not have the same purchasing power because your government is printing money, and banks are just kind of creating debt. And it's like, if you don't understand it, you're like, oh, I'm just going to put my money in the bank and I'm getting 2%, which isn't even the same as, inflation is worse than that. So you're actually losing money all the time. So there's no power in that. And so by understanding the system, you recognize where you should put your money so that it's sort of safe, where it's working for you, and also to stand up and say, this isn't right. Like, this isn't how it should be. There should be limitations on how much a government should be able to print. And you look at all these countries where their financial system has collapsed. People have lost all their money and there's no one to turn to. There's no one to question. It's just like, oh, well, the government were corrupt. It's like everything you've earned, everything you've worked for has gone in a second. And it's like, how good is it really to trust these people and to trust a system that you have no idea how it works? And that's the amazing thing about Bitcoin, is we can see how it works. We can see on every level what it is, what it does, how it works. And you can be a part of creating that money if you want to. So it's empowering.
Yeah.
So, Anja, did you have anything else to add about technological barriers to getting into Bitcoin, or? What about storing keys? How do you feel about that?
Oh, story keys. Yeah, I mean, that was something I needed to train myself with. And having to really start writing down all my keys, which was a I mean, I didn't even write down my passwords for a website. I would just keep doing them over and over, renewing them because I'm like, I don't remember. I didn't write it down. My computer doesn't remember it. So that was a big challenge. And again, and that's not even technological. It's just sort of a new way of keeping track of one of the most important numbers in your life so that you can access your Bitcoin when it's on cold storage or yeah, so it's in you own it. It's your keys, you own that Bitcoin. Um, and I mean, I think I watched a video by somebody on YouTube, and she was talking about, okay, first thing you do is you get two notebooks, two little notebooks. And in each one, you start writing down, all of your little seed phrases, your key numbers, all that, password, your passcodes. And then you store one somewhere, let's say in a safe in your basement, protected from fire. So it was like this kind of strange thought for me to have to do that. And it took me a while. At first, I was a bad girl. And I would just write it down on a piece of paper and I'd put it in a little sleeve somewhere. And, and then just the more and more I heard it and the more clear on the repercussions of if you do lose that information, you lose your Bitcoin. And then I started getting serious, and I have, two notebooks, and I have them in different places, and I update them as much as I can. And so, yeah, I mean, that way, and that's such a simple way, it's the old fashioned pencil, paper, but the concept of having to log all that information and then have the responsibility, it's a slightly unnerving, but you get the hang of it. Again, like we talked about, it's just sort of getting used to it and just starting out. And so I started out by buying this really cute little notebook. I think I just bought one at first, and then the cute little pencil with little cosmic stars on it, because I wanted to make it fun and playful in order to help encourage me to go forward with that. And so then I would just use my cute little pencil and my cute little notebook, and I would start writing this stuff down. And now it's as easy as, I was going to say, getting out of bed in the morning, but sometimes that's really not so easy. What about you, Tansy? How did that go for you, that adventure?
Yeah, I think I started writing down passwords a while ago because I would always find that I would either switch computers or I would log out of things. So I could always have to hand all of my information. So that wasn't too challenging, but I think that there was definitely a sense of worry just about what happens if this gets stolen. So I felt really protective over it. You have one that keeps in a safe, but you need to have one with you, at various times. And so it was difficult because suddenly you're actually writing something down and it's a sort of physical thing that someone could actually take. But obviously having them online, it could get copied and stolen. So I definitely found that quite a challenge, but like you said, like I just got really used to it, and it just felt like everything else, like just everything, all my other passwords, it's like I want to keep them safe too. And so I think just like anything else, there's the learning curve, there's the taking back control, and then there's just a finding peace with that process, right? It is the process, and so you find peace with that. um and yeah, I do understand for people that that part is challenging, but it is definitely a hurdle that you can get over, and you can find creative ways uh, to secure your codes in whatever way you want. That you just need to think, I don't want to hold these online in the form that they're in because they could get taken or seen. So you don't want to take a photo of them or anything like that. You could write them down. But you can also get like little metal kind of things that you click at, like you click out of, and you put your codes in that, or you can have like a really safe storage thing for it. So there's lots of different ways that you can store your codes. So, like you said, finding a way to do it creatively, like with a cute notepad or, holding it in a really cute box, or I don't know, like just however you'd probably store gold, like however you would store something that's of value, put it with those things, and keep it safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
So don't be afraid to go down this journey. Or you can be afraid, but work on that fear because it
Mm,
takes you to really exciting places once you kind of manage it.
definitely. And you can, like, if you hold a small amount, you can still hold a small amount, say in Coinbase, or like we always say, the majority of your Bitcoin you want to hold. But having a little bit that you also hold in somewhere which is hosted, or at first, and again, not too much, only what you're willing to lose, because they have your keys. So they could they could lose them, or they could block your access. But just like Anja and I did, we dipped our toe and we took steps so that we felt safe at each point. So starting for Anja with PayPal, it was something familiar to her. For you. So it was like an easy step in. Like for me, it was a bit of a bigger leap, but still it's Coinbase, and they are a hosted wallet. They hold my keys, but all I needed to use was a password and email to get in. And if I lost that, they would be able to support me in getting access to my wallet. So, you kind of take these steps in, but obviously you're just starting with small amounts. And if you are building up bigger amounts, then you do really need to learn how to hold that safely. But just even that small access, you don't have to go straight into the deep end. It's just like take small steps, buy small amounts, do everything small and learn the process so that you can build that confidence and that comfort. Yeah. Hmm. And obviously we teach. So we have a number of courses at the Crypto Ethics. So we have a great big flagship 3-month program, which we teach the whole piece around crypto and Bitcoin. So first, like how to get in, the essentials of what Bitcoin is, what cryptocurrencies are, what blockchain technology is, and then kind of moving into an understanding of the bigger space of crypto, and then learning how to trade as well. And I have then smaller master classes. So there's a Bitcoin masterclass coming up very soon that will be live, but then you can purchase the recording if you can't make it live. But there's so many opportunities to learn, and we will hold a really safe and supportive space for you as you do that learning. And there's community involved as well. So if you are interested in learning more about Bitcoin, or you need to have a bit of a hand holding process as you come into the space, then do come and look at what we offer and see if you would like to join us for any of the courses that we teach.
Yes. And we would love it if you shared our videos with your friends. And also if you hit the like button and the subscribe and all below so that you'll always be updated when we have our new videos. And it'll help our YouTube algorithm so we can share our thoughts and words with the larger YouTube community. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Anja. And I will speak to you next week.
Yeah, thank you, Tansy. Great seeing you.
Alrighty, you too.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.